you took a year. What was that year like, and how did you prepare? Is there any tips for players preparing for this?
Well, I mean, I knew I wasn't the best player in the world. I knew that I was outclassed in experience and all the skills that they had. And so part of why I would sit behind Johnny and watch him play against the best in the world was then I could see, okay, maybe he didn't teach me a lot, but he was so kind in allowing me to hang around. And this was in LA, where so many of the best poker players at that time were playing in LA. It wasn't, Vegas became kind of the hub, but at that time, this is in the early 2000s, LA was the poker capital of the world.
Now, how did you connect with Johnny? What was the connection?
I tracked him down because I was such a huge fan.
Yeah.
Poker players were just becoming celebrities. I was an agent for celebrities, if you want to call it that. I was an agent for actors, writers, directors, some athletes and artists, music. But I knew that poker players were going to become these celebrities, kind of like NASCAR drivers. The year before, NASCAR was never on television. They were most of the drivers were broke. They were lucky if they were making $50 a week. And all of a sudden they're making $50 million a year. So I saw it as my favorite hobby at the time. So if it's my favorite hobby at the time, and I'm such a huge poker fan, and I wanted to be the best poker player that I could be, I wanted to win the main event at the World Series of Poker. So I just thought, all right, I'm going to track down the best players that I can find and try to exchange. I wanted to provide value to them. I didn't want to ask them for anything.
Right.
I said, what can I do for you so that you'll let me hang around, and really what I wanted them to do was teach me.
Right.
But they weren't willing to do that.
That's a secret.
Now a lot of people are coaching and teaching and offering, but back then they didn't want to share their secrets, right? There were a few books, but that was it. All the information is available now, so anybody who wants to be a great poker player can be. Back then, you could not necessarily be a great poker player just because you wanted to be.
Pre-internet, post-internet.
Right, right. The internet was around, but there were no videos.
Yeah.
There was no, it was the beginning of everything.
Right.
It was the beginning of the boom. It was right when Chris Moneymaker won, and so it was between 2003, 2006, and so during that time, I just said to them, listen, I will be your advisor, agent, whatever you want to call it, book deals, TV deals, movie deals, whatever you need me to help you with. And in exchange, I want you to at least let me hang around. And then all of a sudden, everything opened up to me where you can play on 7 different levels, maybe more now. Young players are just playing at a level where we never were. And so it's really interesting how I then kind of figured out everything that I didn't know and then put myself on my own path of learning of everything that I needed to learn, and then also understood that, all right, there are all of these little daily tournaments. We're only playing maybe 300 to 500 players a day, but they would only last a day, maybe 2 days. At the Bike, at the Hustler, at the Commerce, where I started, Hawaiian Gardens.
Right.
And some of the best players in the world were playing these to warm up for the World Series of Poker. That's how a lot of people warmed up. And I would say that of the last, I maybe played 25 events right before let's say in the last 2 months, I think I won 11 of them, which is crazy, which will never happen again in my life. But it was just because I created a style that no one was used to. Now, could I do that now? No way. I couldn't even have done it then if I wasn't I was talking people in and out of their hands. And it was absolutely the table talk that they weren't used to. So I would basically tell people exactly what I had, and they didn't think that a poker player would ever tell the truth. And so I kind of brought that in. And that's why Johnny Chan said, this kid is going to win the World Series of Poker. He's going to win the main event because no one sees him coming. They have no idea what to do with him. Because I could figure out how to basically tell people exactly what I had. So imagine if you could never lose when you had the best hand.
Right.
So people would just always fold to me and I would show them the best hand. Or I would just flip my cards over. I was doing the craziest things, which was legal then.
Right.
And so, yes, they've changed the rules.
A little bit, right?
And so, there is that Jamie Gold rule that they call it. It's just different now. And it was so much more fun back then.